Hi, everybody. I am here. Um, Good evening, good evening, good evening. Um, Welcome to another live stream. Welcome. I'm here playing with the light on Facebook. Let me see. I think you can see my face better. Um, but anyway, so welcome. I hope happy hump day. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I hope that it went according to plan, that you accomplished everything, um, and that you didn't, sometimes things throw us off in the day. And I just hope everything went smoothly for you today. So, I have been doing a series of live streams, just sharing my thoughts, asking you thought provoking questions, sharing my expertise on being a manager, being a leader, having done HR, being a senior HR professional for about 17 years, um, being in management for maybe about 16. I'm not even sure at this point, but I've been there for many years. And just sharing my thoughts, my experiences, things that new managers pop up on, as well as if you're not a new manager and you're just, you're tuning in, you look at me, or if you want to be in the management game, then this is for you. So my name is Waveney and I am a leadership coach and I help new managers develop leadership influence by mastering their relationships at work and leveraging their communication skills. And I do this by focusing, like I said, on communication and building relationships. I give you the tools and the strategies that you need. Help you set a foundation um, for what could be a very rewarding and successful time for you. Um, and being in a leadership role is really rewarding, and it causes you to change. Like, if you want to do a great job at being a leader, the best leaders are, they know that they have to work on themselves. Like, there is work required for you to do. But most people don't consider this when they sign on the dotted line. Most people don't, they just don't consider it, that there are other elements to this. And so I'm here to help you with that. So last evening, what did I speak about last evening? Um, I spoke about petty leadership last evening. I spoke about ways in which, subtle ways in which you could probably be practicing or thinking very petty in your leadership. And I called that out, I highlighted it. And so if you haven't listened to that, then I suggest that you do. So this evening, I am speaking to you on the topic experience chapter 1 versus chapter 20, right? So, as humans, we always compare. We go to a restaurant, somebody gets maybe sitting at the same table, they order the same thing as we have, and we're comparing. We're saying, well, how come that person get more of whatever than I did? Or even within the same restaurant setting, um, without having maybe prior knowledge, or maybe having all the information, I should say. You sit at a restaurant and you look at another table and you're like, well, how come they got their food? Or what's that drink that person has, right? If you've been guilty of that, I know I have. You can just put an emoji in the comment. Um, but as humans, we always want to compare ourselves to others. We always do it, you know, especially us women. Somebody is like, oh, they're slimmer than I am, or this person looks better than I I do. Like some people do that, whether consciously or unconsciously. But as humans, the point I'm trying to drive is that we always compare ourselves, and we do this, and we do this to such an extent that it cripples us. And we do it when we are in the work environment. We do it in a professional setting. We, we tend to look at other people and we're like, you know what, this person, let me bring my notes closer. We tend to go, um, this person so and so makes being a leader, makes being a manager look so easy, you know. I'm not sure if I could even do that, right? And we start to compare and doubt ourselves. Then we might say something like, give me a minute, give me a minute. I am so thirsty. Um, then we may say something like, Keisha is such a great communicator. She has great communication skills with her team. I know that I'm not that great. There's just something about that there's something about the way she communicates. you know she has that way with them, or she has that way with this particular person, right? Or we might say, Tom's team always speaks about when he corrects them, like if they make a mistake. And these are examples, right? These are examples. So you might say, you know I'm hearing the feedback that Tom's team is saying that when he corrects them, they walk away feeling valued, or they walk away feeling heard, or, you know, whenever they make a mistake, then the way he corrects them is such and such, right? And you walk away feeling, you're comparing and you're saying, well, this must be something he's born with, like it's a natural, right? Because, there's some people that have natural gifts. It's inbred. What's the word? I'm not sure, but they're born with it, right? They're born with it. And so we think that the quality that we admire most in people, most in others, that they're born with it, or they're just some rock stars. And we tend to, even within the management arena, we tend to just really compare. Like I know I've gotten, maybe in 2 weeks ago, someone was telling me, maybe it's a week ago. I don't know. The days are going so fast. I just don't know. Um, so someone was saying to me how they were giving me a compliment, and they were saying, you're so confident when you go on your live streams, you speak so well, and they could never do that because the person has a business as well. And then I don't like how this lighting is showing up. Give me a minute. I don't know. Okay, I think this is much better. On my Facebook, it just looks really white, like glaring. I guess I'll figure it out, right? So they were saying, um, you do such a wonderful job, blah, 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 blah. And I said thank you because I'm learning how to, accept compliment. When people give us compliments, you're like, me, no, I am this, I'm that. So I'm learning. I have my, things that I need to work on, right? Um, and they gave me that compliment, and we started getting into a conversation, and I'm like, but it never used to be that way. I said, thank you so much, thank you for thinking that. I said, but it never used to be that way, because they went on to say that they are so scared and they're intimidated to go live stream. And I said, yes, it's really intimidating. And I said, listen, I remember my first live stream, I was so nervous. Like I took maybe a half an hour before I popped the button, right? um, but I share that with you because we do this all the time. We do it in our personal lives. We do it in our professional life. And What we don't realize is that most people are not born with those qualities. Most people are not born, most leaders are not born with the quality that you see them with, the great communicator, the ability for them to capture the presence of a room, the ability for them to have gravitas, which is really your presence, your aura, you know. Most people are not born that way. Okay. If I were to tell you that I am an introvert, but I know some of you would not believe me, I am. I am an introvert. I am. Okay. Um, I get my strength from having a lot of alone time. And I know this about myself. I love people. I like to be around people. I like to be social, but I also need my quiet time. And we feel like people are born this way. And what we don't recognize is that people have learned to master, people work on themselves. People work on themselves and they've learned to master skills. And we always tend to look at, there's an art in doing this. When you work on yourself, this is just some free pieces of information, by the way. When you commit to working on your professional or personal development, what you focus on grows. And it is the truth. I know that you probably have heard this phrase a trillion million times, a million trillion times, but what you focus on grows. So if you take the time to focus on your personal development, to focus on your professional development, the first thing is that's going to happen is the boat will spill over. If you focus on your professional development, like the skills and the tools that I teach you here on this platform, the People's Brand, they're gonna spill over in your personal life. Okay. I remember the first time I realized that, and it was with a communication technique that I had learned, right? In really speaking about what was it? How to communicate my feelings. When you do X, I feel this way. Instead of saying you always do this or you always do that. There's a specific way in which you do that. And I remember the first time that it kicked in because I had learned it and I was practicing it and I had a disagreement with the person I was with at the time. And yeah, it kicked in. I started communicating my feelings like that. And so all that to say, you're going to the tools that you learn, they're going to spill over, right? The second thing that will happen when you invest in you is that it's going to be what people will see is they're going to see your strengths. Your strengths will be magnified. The things that you're great at will be magnified because that's where the focus is, right? A part of being a great leader is also being consistent. And being consistent gives way to people thinking that you're excellent, that you are always doing this a particular way. And there will be things about you that needs development. But what people will see is the consistency. They will see the consistency of your investment, of you developing yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there. And so we have a tendency to only see that. We see the mastery of the skills, the communication skills, we see the mastery of people being great leaders, people having great rapport with their staff, people, you know, doing this and that, and not realizing or forgetting that they weren't born that way, right? They were not born that way. And this is where the topic comes in, where you are at chapter one. If you are a new manager, which I'm speaking to you, you're a new manager, you're new in your role. I mean, you could be at a particular company for years, but when you get into that role, it's a different ball game. And so you are at your chapter 1, and here you are just looking at someone who is in chapter 20 and just thinking there's nothing wrong with admiring what that person is great at or what these people are great at. But the danger comes in when you compare yourself to that person and you start to doubt yourself and you start to um you know berate yourself that you're not like that. And so you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20. It is very, very tempting to do so. As a matter of fact, you're probably doing it right now, um, with some area of your life. Okay. You're probably doing it right now in a particular area of your life. You're probably looking at someone and wishing that you were like them or wishing you could develop that skill. And sometimes we take it too far where we allow that thing, that disease of comparing to cripple us, right? Um, just checking my notes. And one of the reminders that I have to keep reminding people is by virtue of the fact that you're a manager, your role, by virtue of the fact that you have been working at an organization for how much ever years, you may know this particular job. You may have, worked your way around that department. You've done everybody's job, but now you're the manager. But you still find yourself comparing, and that is because you are in a different season of your life. You're at a different level of your life, and so you cannot. You're doubting yourself. You're doubting yourself, and you're putting so much pressure on yourself. You probably start to think that, because I've done this, because I'm in this role, I'm supposed to, I'm not supposed to feel this way, right? You think that because you have a degree or because you have your MBA, it's going to solve the problems that you're, you know, the problems that you're having with your team. It's going to help you. You think because you have your degree or your MBA or whatever experience, maybe you don't, whatever experience, you think that it's going to automatically help you be comfortable with resolving conflict, right? There's a lot of as a manager, as a leader, you're gonna have to resolve conflict between people on your team, between you and others, um, between you and your boss, whatever. And you feel like because you have all this, maybe educational stuff, that it's supposed to help you, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be like somebody else. But like I said before, we forget that people have had 5 and 10 and 18 and 20 years of doing and making mistakes. And this is the thing that you don't see. You don't see the mistakes and the failures that people, I don't even like the word failures. That's for me, there's no failure. I've conditioned my mind like that. There's no failure. The only failing that will go on is if you quit, is if you say, I'm walking away. That's the only failure, right? So there are lessons. Um, and people are doing this for a long time and they make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've made mistakes, right? And that's how it is. And you can admire, but don't allow it to get to you. Instead, you need to ask questions. You need to put yourself in a position where you're asking this person, well, how did you become successful? So you admire the person, whomever you admire, a leader, they have a particular trait that, you know, you want to learn or you want to develop. So ask a question, befriend that person. don't allow don't let your view don't let the view of who that person that you emulate, that person that you admire, don't let the view of who they are destroy your self confidence and destroy your self worth in the leader that you can become. Because again, these are things that happen. These are limiting beliefs. These are blocks that we have. And you would have heard me, I think it was last week or this week. Like I said, I can't remember anymore the topics when I did that topic, but you would have heard me talk about mindset. Mindset is important. And, this is why I started off in my coaching program. Your mindset, you need to be aware of these little traps and, you know, things that can trip you up. Otherwise, you will completely block yourself off from being a success. Okay, so don't this comparing thing game that you have going on, um and allowing it to seep in your mind. We need to stop that. You need to stop that. Stop comparing your chapter 1, your beginning, to somebody's chapter 20. Stop it, and stop allowing it to affect your self confidence. Stop allowing it to affect how you show up, because everybody once started at ground zero. Nobody really, hardly, and even those people who you may say um, they're born with strong leadership tendencies, people just listen to them. Even that has to be reined in, and even that has to be tamed. Even that has to be tamed, right? Even that has to be curated to suit a particular situation. Because here's the thing, you're looking at somebody else and you don't know the history. You don't know the history between that those group of people. You don't know the relationships. You don't know, how rocky they are, or was, sorry. You don't know what they did to get there. You don't know the context. You don't know, what's going on. There could be so many things going on behind the scenes. Context is everything. And so what you are looking at, what you are looking at when you see a leader that is confident and, who can communicate well and who has great rapport with their team, or who seems to have it locked, maybe their time, for me, I admire leaders who always follow up. Like I've had some leaders, I'm still working my 9 to 5, and I have had leaders and have currently leaders that have great follow up skills, right? I've had um, leaders tell me about rookie mistakes that they make. And I'm sitting in front of them and I'm like, really? You made that mistake? Because for me, the person that I'm seeing now is so far removed from what they're telling me the mistake was, right? And so, it's just a human tendency to sort of think that people are perfect because they do things consistently and they do them well. But what you see when you're seeing that is somebody who was willing to learn, who was willing to invest in themselves. And I love to talk about investing in yourself. And it's not because I have this, coaching program, the People's Brand. It's not about that. Because even listening now, you choosing to listen, you taking your time out, but how much minutes I have now? 24 minutes that I've been chatting with you. Um, you taking the time out is an investment. You have to want to invest in yourself, right? So what you see is what when you see perfection and when you see all these things that you admire and you're beating yourself on, it's people who are willing to learn. They want to learn, right? They're not comfortable just staying there. They're learners. successful people and people who, specifically people who lead well and people who um, are successful at leading, successful leaders, managers, whatever you want to call it, they learn, they put themselves in a position to learn and they never stop learning. So you might have a degree from 3 years ago, or you might have a particular experience from X amount of time, but what are you doing now? How are you positioning yourself to learn? How are you doing that? Right? What you're seeing when you see someone and you're who is excellent, an excellent leader, you're seeing someone who was willing to push through their fears. Leadership is a brave act because you're going to find yourselves in some positions that requires you to speak up, to, you know, be brave, right? And it could be setting a boundary, especially if you're someone who is introverted, especially for those persons who were friends. Like, so they're you you may be working at an organization and you're all friends with everybody, and so now you're finding yourself in a position where you are leading them, you're the manager now. How do you do that? Lots of people are uncomfortable with that. How are you going to do that? There comes a point where you have to set a boundary, because trust me, people are your friends until you're a leader. Actually, let me write that down because that is so good. People are your friends until you lead them. Until you lead them, when you have to correct them, when you have to guide them, when you have to coach them, even if you have to, then the ball game is different. It's not everybody's going to take that. So you got to push through your fears, and you've got to push through certain fears that you may have, like speaking, like public speaking. Like as a leader, you may be called upon to do certain things. You may be called upon to create a report, like make a presentation, push the bravery part of it. When you see someone that you think a leader, that you admire, that you think is successful, you're seeing someone who is consistent, not someone who today, um, thank you, thank you for writing that. One of Diana on Facebook typed that back to me. Thank you so much. So you're seeing someone who is consistent, and being consistent is difficult. It's not a walk in the park, right? It's not something that you just do. It's a habit that you're forming, right? It's a habit. So being consistent is difficult, but it's worth it, because when you get past that hump, I would say about 3 months, maybe 2 months, then you start to get the hang of it. But what happens is, and I'm going to tell you this trick, what happens is with consistency is that you start something, you decide that you want to do something, you want to change something, and you're going to do it right today, right tomorrow. And then on the third day, you fall off and you're like, shoot, I can't do this, and you quit and walk away. When what you should be doing is on day 4, you should be continuing. So you do it right day 1, day 2, day 3 you fall off, and day 4 you get back up and you continue. And lots of people don't do that. They just beat up on themselves and they don't continue. You can't do that. So when you see success, you're seeing people who are positioning themselves to learn, who are investing in themselves, people who are pushing past their fears, speaking up. People are being courageous, right? And setting the boundaries and doing all that. You're seeing someone who is consistent and who is intentional about being consistent, because consistency is not something that just, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. You have to, especially if you want to um, create success for yourself, right? You're seeing someone who take risks, right? Like changing. Do you know that changing is a risk? Like changing yourself is a risk. Most of us, we're in groups, right? We're in groups, we have friends, and we may be growing at a faster rate than our friends. We may have our goals and dreams and aspirations. We may not have shared them, and so we're growing faster. And so we try to change, and then we get pushback from our friends. You never come out anymore, or you never do this, or why are you saying that, or why are you behaving like this, or whatever. Changing is risky, but it's the price of success, right? It's the price of success, right? And then lastly, you're looking at someone, and if you're just joining me, I'm speaking about the fact that how we like to compare our chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20, to the extent so much so that we are beating down on ourselves. It's affecting our self-esteem, or affecting our confidence. It's creating a mindset that is crippling to our growth, right? And you're seeing someone, when you see success in someone, um, you're seeing someone who has stepped outside their comfort zone so many times. I can't even tell you for me how many times I've stepped outside my comfort zone to get to this point, and it's still happening. There's still things that I feel afraid. I feel the fear, but I do it anyway because I know if I don't do it, I'm going to stay at the same place, and I don't want to do that. My goal is that when I come to the end of my life, I would have given everything, every single thing, every single thing that I that is inside me, um, and that God has intended for me to share, and that is how I want to live, right? So um nobody, I just want to remind you as I wrap up, nobody gets into management knowing everything. These are things that need to be talked about. These are things that people need to know. Outside of the other things, learning how to do Excel, learning how to do the technical parts of the job, learning how to resolve conflict. And this is why I have this platform, because I cover the things that most people don't tell you. Most people are not going to tell you how afraid they were, like the deep fears that they have in showing up. Most people won't tell you that the first time they did a presentation, after they did that, they probably went into the bathroom and threw up. Most people won't tell you that. Most people won't tell you about the first time they had to set a boundary, they had to address somebody who was really close to them, how that made them feel, how they were up all night practicing, how they didn't know what to say. Most people won't tell you that, because leading others requires that you lead yourself. And to lead yourself, you have to know you. You have to change your mindset. You have to be on a, what we say in the Caribbean, you have to be on a different energy and a different vibe, right? And so this is where I come in. This is the foundation that I help you set in my communicator influence class. I focus on 3 areas: connection, communication, relationships. And when you have those three, those 3 things, then your influence will grow and your confidence will grow. Okay? Your confidence will grow because you have the tools that you need to do the job, to set the foundation. And so, if this resonates with you and you want to be a better leader, you want to be an influential leader, you want to make a difference, because the people who look at the people's brand, they want to make a difference, they want to be better, um, they want to invest in themselves. Schedule a consultation call with me. If you are on um, Instagram, the link is in the bio. You check the bio and the links are there. There's also a link that takes you to the Communicator Influence program, so you could read up all about it as well. Same thing on my Facebook, but it'll take you to the website, and it's easy to navigate because I don't believe in having a lot of stuff to confuse people. I like to keep things simple. Very, very simple. Very simple. All right. Simplicity wins in the end. When we make things too complex, then it gets messy, it gets muddled, that sort of thing. So, schedule. I am here to help you to squash your doubt because I was once in your position. I was once someone who didn't have a lot of confidence. I know you guys don't believe me, but it is the truth, right? It is the truth. Didn't have a lot of confidence, didn't, doubted my capabilities. And I'll tell you something about me. I even had that because I never went. I've never had the opportunity to go to university, right? I never had the opportunity to go to university. Um, I had a high school diploma. I Along the way, I have my HR certification, but when I tell people that you know I don't have a degree, I didn't go to school to learn, like to a like a higher educational institution to learn human resources, right? And they're shocked, right? And I'm sharing this because I want you to know that if this may be you may be doubting yourself because you're comparing yourself with somebody who has an MBA, right? You may, okay? And I know I did that. Or even if you went to school and you have your MBA, but this is your first job and this is your first leadership role, and now you have to um what do you call it? Now you have to lead a team of people who have been in the role for a very long time, who are older than you, and that can cause some sort of um, you know self-esteem issue. So they're different. People have their different things. People have their different things that block them, right? And I wanted to share this with you because I want you to know that if I can do it, you can do it well. And the program is designed for you in mind, with you in mind, to give you the tools that you need. So schedule a consultation call. We schedule the consultation call because you need to be the right fit for the program. If you don't want to put in the work, then this program is not for you. But if you're serious about it, if you're passionate about it, if you want to invest the time in developing yourself, then I am the right coach for you. All right. And so thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure. But before I go, oh, I have a comment here, some comments. So on Facebook, Diane is saying, no need for comparison, but more so a learning and teachable experience. Yes, that is so true. And the best of us know that. And what else? Consistency is, yes, positive consistency. She's saying, she's agreeing, and she said consistency is the key, but positive consistency. And you're right. Doing the things that we should, the positive things consistently, because that's how bad habits are formed. Bad habits are formed by doing bad things consistently. So, yes, thank you so much, Diane. Positive consistency. All right. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure. Be sure to share this out with someone. Maybe you have a friend or a family member that can benefit from this video. Maybe, they're doubting themselves, they're new in their role, um, they're taking the comparison thing to a next level. Share this out with them. And save this save this live stream for those moments, because you will need it. Each level there's something. So save this live stream for those moments that you need a pick me up. All right, that is what I'm here for. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll be back with the final topic for the week, and then I'll be back next week. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye.